I was sitting in the admissions counselor's office at Columbia University, holding my acceptance letter with trembling hands. 4 years of sleepless nights, endless studying, volunteer hours at the hospital debate competitions. Everything had led to this moment. My grandmother Eleanor's voice echoed in my mind. Education is the one thing no one can take from you, Timothy. She had saved for 22 years to give me this chance. That evening, my parents invited me home to celebrate. I thought they were proud. I had no idea they were about to ask me to throw it all away. Before I dive into what happened that night, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your country or state in the comments below. And, if you have not already, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Because trust me, you will want to hear how my grandmother, the woman I thought was just a sweet old lady, turned out to be the hero I never expected. Let's get into it, too. The $200,000 college fund was not just money. It was my grandmother Eleanor's entire life savings. She had worked as a nurse for 45 years, never taking vacations, driving the same beat-up Honda for 2 decades, living in a tiny one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. I remember visiting her as a kid, noticing how she would buy generic brands, how she would mend her own clothes, instead of buying new ones. I did not understand then. I understand now. Grandma set up the trust fund the day I was born. She told me once when I was old enough to understand that she grew up the 7th of 9 children, in a family so poor they shared shoes. When she finally saved enough for nursing school at 18, her parents took the money to pay for her older brother's wedding. She had to wait 5 years before she could afford to go back. I swore that day, she said, her eyes fierce, despite her soft voice, that no grandchild of mine would ever have their dreams stolen for someone else's party. I was her first grandchild. Special. She would take me to the library every Saturday, buy me science books, quiz me on anatomy, while we baked cookies together. When I told her I wanted to be a doctor, she cried happy tears. "You will be," she said. "I have made sure of it." So I worked. God, did I work. I maintained a 3.9 GPA through high school. My SAT scores landed in the top percentile. I became student government president, captained the debate team, and volunteered 15 hours a week at the same hospital where Grandma had worked for decades. The nurses there still remembered her, still spoke her name with reverence. I wanted to make her proud. I wanted to be like her. When the acceptance email from Columbia Pre-Med arrived last March, I called Grandma before anyone else. She sobbed into the phone. "I knew you would make it, sweetheart. I knew it." We talked for 2 hours about dorm life, about New York City, about the future. My future. Medical school after Columbia. Residency. Maybe pediatrics, working in underserved communities. Everything felt possible. The semester was set to start in 3 months. I had already paid my deposit, chosen my classes, connected with my future roommate Alex from California on social media. I was ready. Finally, everything was falling into place. My sister Madison was 3 years older than me. She had been bright once, or so everyone said. She started at the state university with decent grades and big plans to major in communications. But halfway through sophomore year, she dropped out. Just stopped going to classes one day. When my parents asked why, she said she was finding herself, and that traditional education was not for her creative spirit. Madison came home and never left. She bounced between retail jobs and barista gigs, nothing lasting more than a few months. She lived in her childhood bedroom rent-free, while our parents made excuses. "She is just figuring things out," Mom would say. "Not everyone is cut out for college." Dad would add, shooting me a meaningful look, as if my success somehow made Madison's failure worse. Madison and I were not close. We were not enemies, but there was always this tension. She would make comments like, "Must be nice being the golden child," or "Not all of us can be perfect like Timothy." I tried not to engage. I focused on my own path and let her walk hers. But I could feel her resentment simmering beneath every family dinner. Every holiday gathering where relatives asked about my achievements, while Madison stood silent in the corner. My parents enabled it. Every time Madison quit a job, they made excuses. Every time she asked for money, they gave it. They never pushed her, never held her accountable. And somehow, in their minds, my drive and ambition became the problem, not her lack of direction. That Friday evening in late May, Mom called and asked me to come home for dinner. She was making pot roast, my favorite. "We want to celebrate your Columbia acceptance properly," she said, her voice warm. I should have known something was off. My parents had barely mentioned Columbia since I got in. No congratulations card, no proud Facebook post, just a brief, "That is nice, honey," when I showed them the letter. But I wanted to believe they were coming around. I wanted them to be proud. So I drove to their house that evening, hopeful and naive. The table was set nicely, candles burning the good dishes out. Dad opened a bottle of cheap champagne from the grocery store and poured 4 glasses. He raised his in a toast. "To Timothy's future at Columbia." We clinked glasses. The champagne tasted sour. Madison arrived 30 minutes late with her boyfriend Derek in tow. Derek was pleasant enough, worked in sales for some tech company. I had only met him a handful of times at family gatherings. He seemed like a decent guy, certainly better than some of the losers Madison had brought home before. "Sorry we are late," Madison said, not sounding sorry at all. She was buzzing with energy, her eyes bright. "We have news." She thrust her left hand forward. A diamond ring, modest but pretty, caught the candlelight. "We are getting married next spring." Everyone erupted in congratulations. I stood and hugged her. "That is great, Mad. Congratulations." I shook Derek's hand. He smiled nervously, like he was not quite sure what he had gotten himself into. Madison pulled out her phone immediately. "Look, I have been planning everything." She swiped through Pinterest boards. Elaborate floral arrangements. A designer wedding dress with a train that looked 12 feet long. A luxury resort venue upstate with mountain views. "We are thinking around 200 guests," she said. "I want a live band, not a DJ. And the rehearsal dinner has to be somewhere nice. Maybe that French restaurant downtown." Mom and Dad exchanged glances. Dad cleared his throat. "That sounds lovely, honey. But that is quite an elaborate vision." Madison's face hardened. "I only get married once. I want it to be perfect." Derek shifted uncomfortably. "Babe, we talked about maybe scaling some things back." "No," Madison snapped. "I have dreamed about this since I was a little girl. I am not settling for some cheap backyard wedding." An awkward silence fell over the table. I focused on my pot roast, suddenly losing my appetite. Something felt wrong. The air was too heavy. Dad set down his fork. "Well, actually, we have been thinking about this, and we wanted to talk to everyone together." My stomach dropped. Some instinct deep and primal told me to run. Mom reached across the table, placing her hand over mine. "Timothy, honey, you know we love both you and your sister equally, right?" "Sure," I said slowly. Dad continued. "And we want both of you to have what you need to be happy." "Okay," I said, though nothing about this felt okay. "The thing is," Mom said, her voice taking on that tone she used when she was about to ask for something unreasonable, "Madison has had a harder time than you. She has struggled to find her path. And this wedding, having this one perfect day, it would mean the world to her." I stared at them. Madison was nodding eagerly. Derek looked at his plate. "You, on the other hand," Dad said, "you are a smart kid. You have options. You could go to community college for 2 years, get your basics done for a fraction of the cost, then transfer to a 4-year school. You would still become a doctor eventually." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What are you saying?" Mom squeezed my hand. "We think it would be fair if you shared the college fund with your sister. For her wedding." The room tilted. I pulled my hand away. "You want me to give up Columbia for a wedding?" "Do not be dramatic, Timothy," Mom said. You can still go to college, just not an expensive Ivy League school that costs $60,000 a year. Madison needs this, Dad added. Family comes first. Your sister needs this more than you need a fancy name on a diploma. I looked at Madison. She was smiling. Actually smiling. No guilt, no shame, just expectation. Like it was already decided. Like my dreams were negotiable, and hers were sacred. This cannot be happening, I whispered. Timothy, Madison said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Do not be selfish. You have always had everything. For once, can I have something? I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. I need air. I walked out the back door into the yard, my hands shaking, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might be sick. Behind me, I could hear Mom calling my name, but I kept walking. I stood in the darkness of their backyard, staring up at the stars, trying to understand how my life had just imploded in the span of 5 minutes. This could not be real. This could not be happening. But it was. The bombardment started the next morning. I woke to 17 text messages from my mother. We just want what is best for the family. Please think about your sister's happiness. This is what families do for each other. Each message was a small knife guilt disguised as love. Dad called 3 times before noon. I let them go to voicemail, but eventually picked up the 4th call. His voice was calm, reasonable, like he was negotiating a business deal. Let's be practical, son. Columbia is not the only good school. You could get just as good an education at State for a quarter of the price. Why be stubborn about a name? Because I earned it. I said, my voice tight. I worked 4 years for this. Madison dropped out because she did not feel like trying anymore. That is not fair, Dad said. Your sister has her own struggles. Struggles she chose, I shot back. I am not responsible for her choices. He sighed. I hoped you would be more mature about this. He hung up. I stared at my phone, feeling like I was in some alternate reality, where up was down, and sacrifice meant nothing. The emails from Madison started that afternoon. Long, rambling messages about how I always got everything, and how she never got a chance to shine, and how, for once, could something be about her. She CC'd our parents on every email, building her case, making me the villain in her story. Even Derek sent me a message. Hey man, I am sorry about all this. I tried to tell Madison we could do something smaller, but she has got her heart set on this big wedding. I do not know what to say. At least he seemed uncomfortable with the whole thing. Small comfort. I tried reasoning with them. I sent a long, carefully worded text to my parents, explaining what Columbia meant. The pre-med program had an 8% acceptance rate. The connections I would make, the opportunities that would open the doors, that would close forever if I went to community college instead. I explained how hard I had worked, how many nights I stayed up studying, while Madison was out with friends. How many parties I skipped, how many sacrifices I made. Mom's response, you are being selfish. Dad's response, Grandma would understand that family comes first. Madison's response, of course you would make this all about you. I could not sleep. I lay awake, replaying the dinner conversation, analyzing every word, wondering if I was crazy. Was I being selfish? Was I wrong to want to keep the fund my grandmother had specifically created for my education? The doubt crept in like poison. By Sunday, my parents had mobilized the extended family. Aunt Carol called. Your sister has had such a hard time, Timothy. Do not you think she deserves to be happy? Uncle Mike, who I had always thought was reasonable, left a voicemail. Your parents are right, kid. Community college is not a bad option. I went there, and I turned out fine. Cousins started posting vague social media statuses. Families should support each other's dreams, Melissa wrote. Real love means sacrifice, posted Jake. Everyone could read between the lines. I was being subtly shamed in front of everyone we knew. The intervention happened that Sunday evening. My parents hosted what they called a family dinner, but was actually an ambush. When I arrived, the living room was full. Aunts, uncles, cousins, even some family friends I barely knew. Madison sat on the couch, tissues in hand, Derek beside her, looking miserable. Grandma Eleanor was there too, sitting in the corner armchair, watching everything with sharp, quiet eyes. She had not said a word about the college fund situation yet, and that scared me more than anything. "Timothy," Mom said, gesturing to an empty chair in the center of the room. "We thought it would be good for everyone to talk this through together." It was not a conversation. It was a prosecution. One by one, relatives stood up and told me why I should give Madison the money. Aunt Carol talked about how marriage is sacred. Uncle Mike repeated his community college success story. Aunt Jennifer said that Madison had been through so much and deserved this happiness. Madison cried throughout, dabbing at her eyes. "I just want my brother to care about me," she sobbed. "Is that too much to ask?" I tried to defend myself. "I care about you. But this fund was set up specifically for education. Grandma saved for 22 years so I could go to school." "Grandma would want you to help your sister," Mom said firmly. I looked at Grandma, waiting for her to say something, anything. She sat still, her face unreadable, her hands folded in her lap. The silence from her was deafening. "I worked so hard," I said, my voice breaking. 4 years of straight A's, hundreds of hours volunteering, leadership positions, debate competitions. I earned this." Madison quit. "That is cruel," Dad said sharply. "Your sister is not you. Stop comparing. Then stop asking me to pay for her choices." The words burst out of me loud and sharp. The room went silent. Madison cried harder. Mom glared at me with genuine anger. Several aunts shook their heads in disappointment. I left. Just walked out the front door while people were still talking. I heard Mom call after me, heard Madison wail something about me ruining everything, but I did not stop. I got in my car and drove back to my apartment, my whole body shaking. That night, I could not stop crying. I felt so alone. Everyone, my entire family, had turned against me. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was the selfish one. The doubt was crushing. Wednesday afternoon, my dad asked me to meet him for coffee. I almost said no, but some stupid part of me hoped he had come to his senses. We met at a diner near his work, sliding into a booth in the back corner. He did not waste time. "We have made a decision, Timothy." My stomach clenched. "If you do not agree to share the college fund with your sister, we will stop supporting you in other ways." His voice was flat, emotionless, like he was reading from a script. "You will not be welcome to stay at the house during school breaks. We will not co-sign any student loans you might need. And we will not attend your graduation from Columbia if you choose to go." I stared at him. "You are blackmailing me." "We are setting boundaries," he corrected. "You have to choose, Timothy, Columbia, or your family." He left money for the coffee on the table and walked out. I sat there for an hour, unable to move, unable to process what had just happened. That evening, Mom called. She was crying. "How can you do this to us? How can you tear this family apart over money?" "I am not the one tearing anything apart," I said, but my voice was weak. "Your grandmother would be so disappointed in you," she said, and that hurt more than anything else she could have said. "Grandma saved that money for my education," I whispered. "And family is more important than education," Mom said. "Madison is planning to stop speaking to you if you do not help her. Is that what you want, to lose your sister?" I did not answer. She hung up. Friday evening, Madison showed up at my apartment. Derek waited in the car, engine running clearly, wanting no part of this. Madison pounded on the door until I opened it. "I cannot believe you," she said, pushing past me into my living room. "Do you know how humiliating this is? Derek's family is already judging me because my own family will not help pay for the wedding. His parents are contributing $30,000. $30,000. And my own brother, who has a $200,000 trust fund just sitting there, will not give me anything. It is not for weddings, Madison. It is for education. I gave up college, she screamed. The least you could do is help me have one good thing in my life. You did not give up college. You quit because you did not want to do the work. Her hand flew up, and I thought she might actually hit me. She stopped herself, breathing hard, tears streaming down her face. Everyone thinks you are being selfish. Everyone. Mom, Dad, the whole family. Even Grandma is disappointed in you. Grandma has not said anything, I said quietly. Because she is too hurt to talk to you, Madison spat. You are breaking her heart. She left, slamming the door so hard, a picture frame fell off the wall and shattered. I sat on the floor, next to the broken glass, and tried to remember how to breathe. I had not eaten properly in days. I had lost 8 pounds. I could not focus on anything. My entire family had weaponized their love, turned it into a tool of manipulation, and I was drowning under the weight of it. Saturday morning, my doorbell rang. I almost did not answer, assuming it was Madison coming back for round 2. But when I looked through the peephole, I saw Grandma Eleanor standing there alone, holding a bag from the bakery. I opened the door. She smiled, but her eyes were sad. Can I come in, sweetheart? Of course. I stepped aside, and she walked in slowly. She was 83 years old, moving more carefully these days, but her mind was still sharp as ever. She settled on my couch and patted the cushion beside her. Sit with me. I sat. She pulled out oatmeal raisin cookies from the bag, my favorite, the ones she had been making for me since I was 5 years old. Eat something. You look thin. I took a cookie but could not taste it. We sat in silence for a moment. How are you really doing? She asked gently. And I broke. The tears came hard and fast, weeks of pressure and pain pouring out. I told her everything. The dinner, the texts, the calls, the intervention, Dad's ultimatum, Madison's visit. All of it. She held my hand and listened, her grip surprisingly strong for such an old woman. When I finally finished, I wiped my eyes and said, I am sorry, Grandma. I know you wanted me to help, Madison. I know I am disappointing you. Disappointing me? She looked genuinely surprised. Timothy, I have been watching this whole situation unfold, and I have been very disappointed. My heart sank. Even Grandma. Disappointed in your parents and your sister, she continued. Not you. Never you. I looked at her, hope flickering. Really? She reached into her large purse and pulled out a manila folder. Timothy, there is something I need to tell you about that college fund. Something your parents apparently forgot to mention. She opened the folder. Inside were legal documents, thick and official-looking, with notary stamps and signatures. When I set up that trust 22 years ago, Grandma said, her voice taking on a steely quality I had never heard before. I was not naive. I knew exactly what I was doing. She laid the first document on my coffee table. This is an irrevocable educational trust. Do you know what that means? I shook my head. It means the money can only be used for education expenses, tuition, books, room, and board fees. That is it. It cannot be withdrawn for anything else. Not weddings, not cars, not vacations. Education only. My hands started shaking. What? Furthermore, she continued, pulling out another document. You are the sole beneficiary. Not your parents, not your sister, not anyone else. Only you. I am the trustee, which means I control the fund until you turn 22, at which point full control transfers to you. But even as trustee, I cannot change the beneficiary. It is locked in. So, I could barely speak. So they cannot touch it. They cannot touch it, Grandma confirmed. It is legally impossible. The trust documents are ironclad. I had a lawyer draw them up specifically to prevent exactly this kind of situation. The room spun. But, why Why would they ask me if they knew they could not access it? Grandma's eyes hardened. Because they hoped you did not know your rights. They hoped you would voluntarily agree to give money from your own future earnings, or take out loans, and give Madison the cash, or find some other way to sacrifice yourself for her. They lied to me, I whispered. They did, Grandma said, and I am ashamed of them for it. She pulled out more papers. These are copies for you. I kept the originals in my safe deposit box. You will notice here, she pointed to a clause, that your parents were informed of all these conditions when the trust was created. They signed acknowledgement forms. They have always known they could not access this money. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. 3 weeks. 3 weeks of torture, of guilt, of questioning myself, of feeling like a terrible person. And they knew. They knew the whole time it was protected. They knew, and they let me suffer anyway. Why? I asked. Why would they do this? Grandma sighed. Your father is my son, and I love him. But he has always had a weakness for your sister. Madison learned early that if she cried loud enough, complained hard enough, your parents would move mountains for her. And your mother enables it, because she feels guilty that Madison struggled in school while you excelled. She took both my hands in hers. I set up this trust, because I knew this might happen someday. I grew up in a big family, Timothy. I was the 7th of 9 kids. When I was 18, I had saved $5,000 for nursing school. It took me 3 years of working double shifts at a diner. My parents took it, said my older brother's wedding was more important, said I could always go to school later. I did not know that, I said. It took me 5 more years to save again, Grandma said. By then, I had watched 2 more siblings get married with my family's money. I finally got to nursing school when I was 23. I vowed that day that no grandchild of mine would ever have their education stolen for someone else's party. She pulled out one more document. This is a letter of intent I wrote when I created the trust. It explains exactly why I set it up this way. If your parents continue to harass you, my lawyer will be sending them a cease and desist letter, along with a copy of this. They will stop, Timothy. I promise you that. I looked at the document spread across my coffee table. Legal proof that I was not crazy, not selfish, not wrong. Legal proof that my grandmother had protected me before I even knew I needed protection. So, I can go to Columbia. I said the words, feeling surreal. You can go to Columbia, Grandma confirmed. You will go to Columbia. That money is yours legally and morally, and I will not let anyone make you feel guilty about using it for exactly what it was intended for. What about Madison? Madison will have whatever wedding she and Derek can actually afford, Grandma said firmly. That is called being an adult, making choices within your means. It is time she learned that. I hugged her. She was small and frail in my arms, but she felt like the strongest person in the world. Thank you, I whispered. Do not thank me for protecting what was already yours, she said. She stood up, smoothing her skirt. Now, I need to get home, but I will be calling your mother tonight to have a very firm conversation about her behavior. You do not have to do that, I said. Oh, I absolutely do, Grandma said, her eyes flashing. I raised that boy better than this. She kissed my forehead like she used to when I was little. You go to Columbia, sweetheart. Make both of us proud, and do not feel 1 ounce of guilt about it. After she left, I sat with the documents for hours, reading every word, understanding for the first time that I had been fighting a battle that was already won. The money was mine. It had always been mine. And my family had lied to me, manipulated me, gaslit me for weeks, hoping I would not find out the truth. The grief hit me hard. Not grief over losing the argument, but grief over realizing who my parents really were. People who would sacrifice their son's future for their daughter's party. People who would lie and manipulate and emotionally torture their own child. People I could not trust. But underneath the grief was something else. Something harder and clearer. Determination. They wanted me to give up. I would not. They wanted me to feel guilty. I refused. They wanted me to sacrifice my future. Not a chance. I picked up my phone and called my father. "We need to have a family meeting." I said, my voice steady and cold. "Tomorrow, 6 p.m., your house. Grandma will be there too." "Timothy, if this is about the fund again." "It is. And this is not a request. If you want any relationship with me going forward, you will be there." I hung up before he could respond. Sunday evening arrived. I parked in front of my parents' house, the manila folder on the passenger seat, and sat for a moment, gathering my strength. This was it. The moment where I stopped being the compliant son and started being someone who protected his own future. Grandma Eleanor was already inside. She had driven herself, refusing my offer to pick her up. "I want to arrive on my own terms," she had said on the phone that morning. I loved her fierceness. I walked in without knocking. Mom, Dad, Madison, Derek, and Grandma were all in the dining room. The atmosphere was tense. Madison looked annoyed. "Can we make this quick? I have plans." I set the folder on the table. Everyone stared at it. "We are going to talk about the college fund," I said. "One last time." "Timothy," Mom started, but I held up my hand. "I am talking now," I said, and my voice had an edge I had never used with them before. "You can listen." Surprised silence. I opened the folder and pulled out copies of the trust documents, sliding them across the table. "Did any of you know that the college fund is legally protected?" I asked. "That it is an irrevocable educational trust with me as the sole beneficiary." I watched their faces. Mom went pale. Dad would not meet my eyes. Madison grabbed the document, scanning it frantically. "Did you know," I continued, my voice getting harder, "that the money can only be used for education, that it cannot be withdrawn for any other purpose, that Grandma is the trustee, and no one else has any legal claim to it whatsoever?" Madison looked up at our parents. "What does this mean?" "It means," I said, "that Mom and Dad knew from the beginning that they could not touch this money. But they hoped I did not know. They spent 3 weeks emotionally torturing me, turning the whole family against me, making me question my sanity. And they knew the entire time that it was all a lie." "We thought you might agree voluntarily," Dad said weakly. "You lied to me," I said. "You knew this trust was ironclad. You were there when it was created 22 years ago. You signed acknowledgement forms." I pulled those forms out too. "See your signatures. Right there." Mom was crying. "We just wanted to help your sister." "So you decided to destroy your son instead," I said. The words came out cold and factual. "You made me think I was selfish. You mobilized the entire family against me. Dad, you threatened to disown me. Mom, you said Grandma would be disappointed in me. All lies. All manipulation." Madison was staring at our parents in disbelief. "You told me Timothy was just being selfish. You said the money could be split if he agreed. You made me fight with him for nothing." "We thought if everyone put enough pressure on him," Dad started. "You lied to me too." Madison stood up, her chair scraping. "You made me trash my relationship with my brother over money that was never available in the first place." Derek looked like he wanted to disappear through the floor. "Madison has had it harder," Mom tried. "We wanted to help her." "No," I said. "You enabled her. You let her quit school with no consequences. You let her live at home rent-free for 3 years. You never pushed her to figure out her life. And when she decided she wanted a wedding she could not afford, instead of teaching her about living within her means, you decided to steal my future to pay for it." I turned to Madison. "I am sorry they manipulated you too. I really am. But your wedding is your responsibility. Mine and Derek's. Not Timothy's." She sank back into her chair, looking stunned. "Here is what is going to happen," I said. I am going to Colombia in August. The trust fund will pay for it exactly as Grandma intended. Madison will have whatever wedding she and Derek can actually afford. And you two. I looked at my parents. Will stop trying to guilt me into sacrificing my future for Madison's wants. Or what? Dad asked, a last gasp of defiance. Or Grandma's lawyer sends you a cease and desist letter, I said. And you will not hear from me until you can treat me with basic respect. Mom gasped. You would cut us off. You already threatened to cut me off, I said. Remember, no staying at your house, no loan co-signing, no attending my graduation. You made the threats first. I am just setting boundaries. Grandma Eleanor stood up, moving to stand beside me. She looked at her son, my father, with profound disappointment. I raised you better than this. Mom, Dad said. No. Grandma cut him off. You tried to take from your son what I spent a lifetime saving for him. You lied to him. You manipulated him. You turned the family against him. I am ashamed. To Madison, Grandma's voice softened slightly. You have been given too many excuses for too long. It is time to grow up. Plan a wedding you can afford. That is what adults do. I picked up my folder. I hope someday you will understand what you almost cost me. I hope someday you can be genuinely happy for my success, instead of resenting it. But until then, this conversation is over. I walked to the door. Grandma followed me. I turned back one last time. I will let you know when Columbia graduation is. You are welcome to come. But only if you can be there to celebrate me, not to guilt me about Madison. I left them sitting in silence. Outside, Grandma touched my arm. You did well in there, sweetheart. I feel terrible, I admitted. You should not, she said firmly. You protected yourself. That takes courage. I am proud of you. We stood in the driveway for a moment. Thank you for protecting me before I even knew I needed it, I said. That is what grandmothers are for, she said. Now go home. You have packing to do. The week after the confrontation was strange. Radio silence from my parents. Madison sent me one text. I cannot believe they did that to both of us. I am sorry I did not see it before. I wrote back, thank you. I hope your wedding is beautiful, whatever you decide. She did not respond, but it was enough. Derek sent me a friend request on social media. I accepted it. He seemed like a decent guy who got caught up in someone else's drama. Not his fault. The extended family heard what happened through Grandma. Some aunts and uncles sent apologetic texts. Uncle Mike called. I did not know they were lying to you, kid. I am sorry I pushed. Others went silent, too embarrassed to admit they had taken sides without knowing the facts. My younger cousins were more direct. That took guts, standing up to the whole family, Jake messaged. Respect. 2 weeks later, Dad sent an email. It was not quite an apology, but it was something. We were wrong to pressure you the way we did. We hope you will still want us in your life. I did not respond immediately. I needed more time to figure out what relationship, if any, I wanted with them going forward. Madison's wedding got scaled way down. I heard through family gossip that they were doing it in Derek's parents' backyard in November. Guest list cut to 70 people. Derek's family was covering most of the cost. Madison had apparently accepted reality and was making the best of it. Good for her. I threw myself into preparing for Columbia. I secured my dorm assignment in John Jay Hall. I connected properly with my roommate Alex. We video chatted a few times. He seemed great, also pre-med with a similar work ethic. We were going to get along well. One Saturday, in late July, Grandma insisted on taking me shopping for dorm supplies. We went to Target, and she gleefully loaded the cart. Extra blankets because those dorms get cold in winter. A good desk lamp. A first aid kit. Snacks that would not go bad. She was in her element, taking care of her grandson. Over lunch at her favorite Italian restaurant, she got emotional. Your grandfather would have been so proud of you. I wish he had lived to see this. Tell me about when he went to college, I said. I knew Grandpa had been one of the first in his family to go to university. She smiled, lost in memory. He worked 3 jobs to afford it. Came home exhausted every night but never complained. Said education was worth any sacrifice. She reached across the table and took my hand. He would want you to have this ring. She pulled out a small box. Inside was a simple gold ring, worn smooth with age. He wore this through college and medical school. Wore it until the day he died. My grandfather had been a general practitioner in a small town, treating people whether they could pay or not. He was my first inspiration to become a doctor. I cannot take this, I whispered. You can, and you will, Grandma said. He would want his grandson to have it. Wear it to remind yourself why you are doing this. To help people. To make a difference. I slipped it on. It fit perfectly. Call me every Sunday, Grandma said. I do not care how busy you are. Every Sunday. I promise, I said. The day before I left for New York, my parents showed up at my apartment. I had not invited them, but there they were on my doorstep, looking uncomfortable. Mom held out a small gift bag. Inside was a Columbia sweatshirt, dark blue with white letters. We wanted to give you something, she said. For school. Thank you, I said, because it was the polite thing to say. Dad cleared his throat. We are proud of you, even if we did not show it right. We messed up, Mom added. Please do not forget about us while you are in New York. I looked at them. These people who had raised me, who I had loved unconditionally, who had tried to take my future from me. I felt sad, more than angry now. I will not forget you, I said. But things are different now. If you want to rebuild our relationship, it happens on my terms. With respect. They nodded. Dad hugged me stiff and awkward. Mom cried. Then they left. I watched them drive away and felt a door close on one chapter of my life. It hurt, but it was necessary. Late August, I drove to Columbia. New York City rose up around me, massive and intimidating and thrilling. I found my dorm hauled boxes up 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken, and met Alex in person. He was exactly as cool as he had seemed on video chat. That first night, sitting on my new bed in my new dorm room, I called Grandma. How does it feel? She asked. Like everything was worth it, I said, and my voice cracked. Good, she said, because it was. And this is just the beginning. After we hung up, I looked around my small room. Boxes everywhere, new city outside my window, new life ahead of me. I thought about the fight it took to get here. The pressure, the manipulation, the confrontation. I thought about standing up to my entire family, about choosing myself, when everyone told me not to. A year ago, I would have caved. I would have given in to keep the peace. I would have sacrificed my dream to make everyone else comfortable. But Grandma had protected me, and I had protected myself. I pulled out my phone and looked at my class schedule. Organic chemistry at 8 a.m., biology lab on Tuesdays, calculus Wednesday afternoons. It was brutal and beautiful and exactly what I wanted. I thought about Madison probably planning table centerpieces for her scaled-down wedding. I hoped she was happy genuinely. Her choices were not my responsibility, but I did not wish her ill. I thought about my parents, probably sitting in their house, wondering if their son would ever fully forgive them. Maybe someday, but not today. And I thought about Grandma Eleanor, the nurse who worked 45 years to give her grandson a chance she never had. The woman who had seen this coming and protected me before I even knew I needed it. I fell asleep that first night at Columbia, exhausted, but at peace. First semester hit me like a truck. Organic chemistry was brutal. I spent hours in the library forming study groups with other pre-med students, learning that being smart in high school meant nothing here. Everyone was smart. You had to work harder than you ever had before. But I loved it. Every difficult lecture, every impossible problem set, every all-nighter before an exam. Because it was mine. I earned it. I fought for it. I made friends. Real friends, not people who saw me as the golden child or the selfish brother. Just people who liked me for who I was. Alex and I became close, suffering through organic chemistry together. A girl named Priya from our study group became my closest confidant. She had her own complicated family story and understood what it meant to choose yourself over family expectations. I started seeing a campus therapist in October. I thought I had processed everything, but I had not. I needed to talk about the betrayal, the manipulation, the grief of realizing my parents were not who I thought they were. Dr. Chen helped me understand that love should not come with conditions, that boundaries are healthy, that choosing my future was not selfish. Every Sunday, I called Grandma like I promised. She told me about her week, asked about my classes, reminded me to eat vegetables and get enough sleep. Those calls were my anchor. My parents texted occasionally, brief messages. Hope school is going well. Miss you. I responded politely, but did not elaborate. We were strangers trying to figure out if we could be family again. In November, Madison got married. She sent me an invitation to the backyard ceremony. I thought about not going, but in the end, I went. It was the right thing to do. The wedding was actually lovely. Smaller, more intimate than her original vision. Derek's family had gone all out decorating their backyard with string lights and flowers. Madison looked happy in a simpler dress, glowing in a way I had never seen before. Derek looked at her like she was his entire world. I brought a gift, a nice set of cooking lessons vouchers for couples. Something practical they could afford to use together. Madison hugged me, whispering, "Thank you for coming," in my ear. We were not close, might never be close, but the door was not completely closed. My parents approached me during the reception. Dad asked about school. I shared the bare minimum. Mom tried to bring up Thanksgiving, whether I was coming home. "I have plans with friends," I said, which was true. Alex had invited me to spend Thanksgiving with his family in California. "Oh," Mom said, looking hurt. "Maybe Christmas then." Maybe, I said, not committing. I was not ready yet. They did not push. That was progress, I suppose. I left the wedding early, driving back to the city, feeling lighter. I had shown Madison grace without sacrificing my boundaries. I had proven to myself that I could be kind without being a doormat. By spring semester, I had found my rhythm. My grades were good, not perfect, but solid. I was volunteering at a clinic in Harlem 2 afternoons a week, working with underserved populations, just like I had always planned. The work was hard, but fulfilling. I was helping people who reminded me of my grandmother, people who worked multiple jobs just to survive, who could not afford proper health care. One of the doctors at the clinic, Dr. Martinez, took me under his wing. He had gone to Columbia for undergrad too, then Harvard Medical School. He told me I had what it took to get into a top medical school program if I kept working like this. That encouragement meant everything. Grandma visited in April. She took the train into the city, and I gave her a full campus tour. We ate at the Italian place near campus that reminded her of her favorite restaurant back home. I introduced her to my friends. Alex told her she was legendary, that I talked about her all the time. She blushed and smiled, proud and happy. Walking her back to her hotel that night, she said, "You are exactly where you are supposed to be, Timothy. Doing exactly what you are supposed to do." "Because of you," I said. "Because of you," she corrected. "I just made sure no one could take it from you." That summer, between freshman and sophomore year, I did not go home. I got a research position on campus, working in a biology lab, studying infectious diseases. The work was tedious, but important. I shared an apartment off campus with Alex and 2 other pre-med students. We cooked together, studied together, built a family of choice. My parents asked several times when I was coming home. "Not this summer," I told them. "I have work commitments." It was true, but it was also a boundary. I was not ready to go back to that house to pretend everything was normal when it was not. Madison got pregnant in the fall of my sophomore year. She called me herself to tell me. Derek and I are having a baby, due in April. Congratulations, I said, and meant it. Are you excited? Terrified, she laughed. But yeah, excited too. She paused. I have been thinking a lot about what happened with the college fund, with how Mom and Dad acted. Yeah, I am sorry, she said. I did not see it clearly then. But now thinking about being a parent myself, I cannot imagine asking my kid to sacrifice their future for their siblings' party. That was messed up. Thank you for saying that, I said quietly. I want to do better, Madison said. For my kid. Break the cycle, you know. I think that is really good, I said. We talked for a while longer. It was not complete healing, but it was something. A start. I went home for Christmas that year. 2.5 years since the confrontation. I stayed at a hotel, not at my parents' house, but I agreed to Christmas dinner. It was awkward. Everyone walked on eggshells. But Dad asked real questions about my research work and actually listened to the answers. Mom did not guilt-trip me once. Madison and Derek were there with her obvious pregnancy belly glowing and happy. After dinner, Dad asked if we could talk privately. We went to his study. He sat down heavily in his old leather chair. I have been thinking a lot about what I said to you, he started, about choosing between Columbia and family, about disowning you. He looked old, suddenly worn. I was wrong. I was so worried about Madison, about her being happy, that I did not see I was destroying my relationship with my son. Yeah, I said. You were wrong. I do not expect you to forgive me, he said. But I want you to know I am proud of you. Everything you have accomplished. The man you are becoming. I see it now, even if I could not see it then. It was not a perfect apology, but it was real. I am not ready to go back to how things were, I told him. But I am willing to try building something new. Slowly. He nodded, tears in his eyes. That is more than I deserve. Maybe it was. But I was choosing grace not for him, but for myself. Because holding on to anger was exhausting, and I had better things to do with my energy. That night, back at my hotel, I thought about how far I had come. From the boy who almost let his family guilt him into giving up his dreams to the man who set boundaries and chose himself. It had been hard. God, it had been so hard. But I was okay. More than okay. I was thriving. I am finishing my junior year at Columbia now. Medical school applications are looming, and I feel ready. My MCAT scores are strong. My volunteer work continues. My letters of recommendation from professors and Dr. Martinez are solid. I have a real shot at top programs. Grandma is 86, now slower than she used to be, but still sharp. We still talk every Sunday. She tells me she is going to live long enough to see me graduate medical school, and I believe her. She is stubborn enough to will it into existence. My relationship with my parents is better, though different. We talk more now. They visit occasionally. They ask about my life and seem genuinely interested in the answers. Trust is rebuilding slowly. Some wounds take years to heal, and that is okay. Madison had her baby, a little girl named Emma. I am an uncle. I visited them at the hospital, held my niece, and felt something shift inside me. Madison is a good mom, patient and loving in ways I never expected. She enrolled in online classes to finish her degree. She is studying early childhood education. She found her path finally, and I am happy for her. Derek is a good dad, devoted and present. They are building a life together on their own terms, within their means, and they seem genuinely happy. That is all I ever wanted for her. Sometimes, I think about that dinner 3 years ago, the moment they asked me to give up everything for Madison's wedding. I think about how close I came to saying yes, to sacrificing my future, because I thought that is what love required. But love should not ask you to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Real love supports your growth, celebrates your success, and respects your boundaries. Grandma taught me that. She showed me that protecting my dreams was not selfish. It was necessary. I learned that you can love your family from a distance. You can set boundaries without being cruel. You can choose yourself without being selfish. You can fight for what is yours without apology. Some people will call you selfish when you refuse to sacrifice yourself for their comfort. Let them. Your dreams are not negotiable. Your future is not a bargaining chip, and anyone who truly loves you will understand that. I look at my grandfather's ring on my finger, the one Grandma gave me before I left for Colombia. I think about him working 3 jobs to afford college, never complaining, believing education was worth any sacrifice. I think about Grandma spending 45 years as a nurse, living frugally, saving every penny, so her grandson would not have to fight the same battles she did. I am here because she protected me. But more importantly, I am here because I learned to protect myself. The money was never really about the money. It was about respect, about being valued, about having your hard work acknowledged instead of dismissed, about parents choosing to support their children equally instead of demanding one sacrifice for the other. Madison is not my responsibility. Her happiness is not my burden to carry. And once I understood that truly understood it, I was free. I sit in the Columbia Library sometimes surrounded by other students grinding through organic chemistry or anatomy, and I feel grateful. Not just for being here, but for the journey that taught me my worth, for the fight that showed me who I could depend on, for the boundaries that saved my future. Because at the end of the day, the person you face in the mirror is not your parents, your siblings, or anyone else's expectations. It is just you. And you better make sure that person has no regrets. I chose me. I chose my future. I chose my dreams. And that made all the difference. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose between your dreams and family pressure? How did you handle it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss future stories. Share this with anyone who might need to hear that choosing yourself is not selfish. It is survival. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there find the courage to protect their own future. Take care of yourselves, and remember your dreams matter just as much as anyone else's. See you in the next one.